Hello guys and gals and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be taking a look at another one of the summons, which is the Summon Defiler. The Summon Defiler is definitely an interesting one. He doesn't really do a lot. He's kind of like a odd, floaty little demon thing. And kind of how they are in the game too, if you ever actually encounter these guys. They're just like odd little floaty demons that just kind of like float around and do stupid stuff. And they don't really have much purpose to them other than to like attach to monsters and cause them to, when they die, they like spawn forth like little alien babies. These in particular seem to be almost specifically designed around this green mechanic that you see underneath the monster's feet. And it has to do with sharing damage. So basically maxed out, they share damage between bound targets of essentially 54%, which means that technically if you utilize these guys with a build, you can essentially attack one target and share that damage between all the other targets. They have a maximum number of bound souls, and it gets kind of complicated, especially if you go to like the base number, which is only like say at level 2. We've got what maximum bound souls only is 3. And as they level up, the percentage of the shared damage increases, as well as the number maximum of the bound souls, which goes higher and higher and higher, which is really quite interesting. I'm actually kind of... Yeah, I'm dead apparently. Hold on, I gotta go get my body. There we go. So as you can see, we got max bound 5 souls, even with level 27. Let's throw on my cheated items and whatnot and see how high we can get it. So still max bound souls, only 5. These guys are definitely very interesting from a lot of standpoints. They could potentially work their way in just about any build. You don't necessarily need to have a lot of them either. Just one of them would be really interesting. So what's the purpose of this? Like sharing the damage between monsters? Well, I mean, let's say you have a character that has really high single target damage. Like maybe you've got like, I don't know, 100,000 or even 150,000 damage per swing or something. Well, if these guys bind all the targets together and you hit something for 150,000 damage and that gets shared to all the other monsters, it turns your single target hit into a hit that does like basically AoE damage at that point. It's definitely an interesting way where you could potentially like even out the problems with a single target build or a build that doesn't necessarily do a large amount of damage in a large radius, to essentially allow that ability to do radial damage, which is really quite interesting. I don't know if I would ever use 3 of these guys. In fact, one of them might be enough no matter what, or maybe even 2. But you definitely don't want 3. Because it seems like to me you kind of want at least one monster to keep them away from the others. So like a tank essentially. These guys are the healers and you get like a tank. That way you have essentially a setup where you have one monster that can run forward and be the tanking, and then the other 2 can sit in the back and start binding everything. Also, you probably don't want like a goat man anyway. You probably want a bound demon because those things are crazy. You could potentially use this with Blood Boil to cause the damage to spread even further, which is kind of crazy. In fact, I've heard a couple of people tell me that 2 Defilers, 1 Goat Man, and like maxed out Blood Boil does some pretty crazy damage because of the like the damage sharing. It's really kind of odd, these guys. You can also sacrifice them too. Like if you have the consume ability, you can sacrifice them and you can get negative 10% enemy magic resistance and 20% magic skill damage, which basically is going to be really good for like Hex Bane, Hex Purge. It's going to be really good for like any of the magic damage skills like Miasma Bolt, Miasma Chain, Abyss. Anything that does magic damage is going to benefit obviously from that negative resistance and the positive skill damage. And you get the maximum benefit for that, I think, at like level 11. I'm not exactly sure what I think about these guys. I mean, if you beef them up with Blood Oath, you can definitely make them much tankier because they have 7,800 life at that point, so they're going to be a lot harder to kill. It definitely makes quite interesting to have like these guys combined with another setup. I mean, like, let's go play with it for a second, and let's just watch the Goat Man run in there and tank, and then bind all the damage together. And then so as the Goat Man is beating the crap out of one monster, all the other monsters are taking a percentage of that damage. So interesting. I feel like this could definitely work its way into like any build. Like you could potentially throw a Defiler in the mix in like a little summon pack so that you can spread your own damage. I mean, theoretically, if you utilize this with a myriad of abilities that are single target, you could get some pretty crazy, like kind of like AoE damage going on. For instance, just out of the top of my head, Mirrored Blades is a really good single target damage ability that could benefit from this. Cleave could benefit from it as well, even though it's an AoE damage ability. I mean, technically, if you swing it in a circle and you have a bunch of monsters bound together and you hit all of them, then all of them are going to take equal damage, and it's going to help spread it out even more. Of course, if there's other bound monsters that are not within cleave radius, you can kind of essentially pseudo increase the cleave radius by a bit. Echoing Strike also could benefit from the combination because you could focus all your damage on one target and have it echo to all the others. um, I mean, heck, I don't think any of these abilities wouldn't benefit from it. Apocalypse would probably be insane since you could hit the entire screen. I'm kind of curious myself. Like, if you were to run, say, let's say you just did max Defiler and you grabbed 1 point in these, and then you kept out like all the fire skills, as an example, and then you just go ahead and hop into some combat here. Let's just see what happens. We'll summon up the Defilers. 1, 2. Is that all we can get because we didn't put any points in? Okay. And then we're going to go into combat and we're just going to put Apocalypse down. And now we have a bunch of monsters that are all linked together, and they're all taking damage from Apocalypse, and then they're sharing that damage with other monsters that are also within Apocalypse, that are also taking damage and sharing the damage back and forth. It's actually kind of cool. Really kind of spread the damage out between all the targets, quite interestingly. And I feel like that this combination of effects with the Defiler and the damage sharing doesn't necessarily even have to be like a summon character. You could just have the Defilers out for sharing damage and then not even really build points into them. I imagine that like even just as a 1 point wonder, the Defiler still shares apparently with 14 points, 51% of damage shared between bound targets, and then you'd maybe like 1 point wonder consume so you could eat them. I mean, I don't really see anything wrong with it at all. I think a lot of people are probably going to end up using some of these summons, the Goatmen for tanking, the Tainted for like negative fire res and whatnot, and the fire resistance, and also the Summon Defiler for the negative magic resistance, and even the sharing effect, which I think could be just really interesting to play around with and try and like optimize for your character. I don't even know. It looks really cool. Obviously, the Summon Defiler is affected by Blood Oath, which increases his life and resistances and whatnot. I don't think he's affected at all by Demonic Mastery, except maybe the movement speed, because it doesn't seem like he actually attacks anything. Like I don't think he actually attacks anything. I haven't seen him actually use a melee attack, but if he does actually go in there and use a melee attack, I guess Demonic Mastery could be useful for him in some way. Huh. Sorry, I'm like constantly sucking on these Ricola like throat drops. My voice has been terrible the past couple days. I mean, you definitely wouldn't want to teleport them with Death Mark, that's for sure, because they're weak, and I don't think they would really even do anything. You probably would want to. You could use Blood Boil on them, perhaps. That might work surprisingly well. Although they are ranged monsters and they kind of stay in the bag, so maybe it would be better if you had like a couple Defilers and then a Goatman, and then you use Blood Boil on the Goatman. That's pretty much it with the Defiler. He's definitely a creepy looking SOB, I'll tell you what. You get like a good look at him, like from the front. They got like little spikes coming out of their head. They don't have any eyeballs. Definitely creepy looking. An interesting addition to the demon tree, for sure. Something that you're going to have to consider whether or not you want to work into your build or not. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And as always, keep watching.